The taste of blood in my mouth was metallic as I steadied myself against the wall of our living room. At 26, I never expected my father to hit me, especially not over trying to save him from financial ruin. "Get out of my house," Dad snarled, his face red with rage. "How dare you accuse Marcus of fraud? He's making us all rich." I straightened up, touching my split lip while clutching a Manila envelope in my other hand. Working as a forensic accountant had taught me to spot financial scams from a mile away, and Marcus Reynolds' investment opportunity had more red flags than a parade. "Dad, please," I tried again, keeping my voice steady. "Just look at these documents. He's not investing anything. He's stealing." "Enough, Daniel," he shouted. "You're just like your mother, always questioning my decisions, always thinking you know better." The mention of Mom sent a sharp pain through my chest. She passed away 8 months ago after a long battle with cancer, leaving Dad with her life insurance and retirement accounts. Money that was now in Marcus Reynolds' hands. "Actually, I am like Mom," I said, pulling out the bank statements, "because she wouldn't let you throw away everything she worked for either." Before I could show him the papers, the front door opened. Marcus Reynolds walked in, his expensive suit and Rolex watch paid for with other people's life savings. "James, I've got great news about the investment returns." "Oh?" His practiced smile faltered slightly when he saw me. "Daniel, I didn't expect to see you here." I watched him closely. At 45, Marcus was younger than my father but carried himself with the authority of someone used to commanding rooms. He'd spent the last 3 months convincing Dad to invest more and more money into his exclusive investment fund. "He was just leaving," Dad said firmly, shooting me a warning look. "Actually," I stepped forward, "I think we all need to have a conversation about where Mom's money went." Marcus's smile didn't waver, but I caught the slight twitch in his left eye. "James, perhaps we should discuss business in private." "No," I interrupted, pulling out more documents. "Let's discuss it now. Let's talk about how you emptied all of Dad's accounts yesterday. How you've done this to 3 other families in the past 2 years under different names." The color drained from Marcus's face for just a second before he recovered. "James, your son is clearly troubled. As I've explained, the temporary account transfer is standard procedure for." "For what?" I challenged. "For running away with people's life savings, like you did to the Hendersons in Florida? Or the Paddles in Texas?" Dad's head snapped toward Marcus, uncertainty finally creeping into his expression. "What is he talking about?" I spread the documents on our coffee table. Marcus Reynolds is also known as Michael Richards and Mark Randall. He finds grieving families, gains their trust, convinces them to invest everything, then disappears with their money. "These are ridiculous accusations," Marcus said smoothly, but he was slowly edging toward the door. "James, remember what I told you about negative people trying to undermine your success." "Success?" I laughed bitterly. "Dad, check your accounts right now. Call the bank." Dad's hands shook as he pulled out his phone. I could see the moment reality hit him. His face went from angry to confused to horrified in the span of seconds. "The accounts? They're empty," he whispered. "Marcus, what?" But Marcus was already running. I had expected this and pressed a button on my phone. "He's heading out now." The sound of police sirens filled the air outside our house. I coordinated with the fraud division, timing everything perfectly. Through the window, I watched as 2 police cars intercepted Marcus before he could reach his car. Dad sank into his armchair, looking suddenly old and broken. "Your mother's insurance money, her retirement, everything." "Not everything," I said quietly, pulling out one final document. "I froze the main account this morning when I found proof of the fraud." "He only got the smaller accounts." "How did you know?" Dad asked, his voice small. I sat across from him, wincing at the pain in my lip. "Mom asked me to look out for you before she died. She knew you'd be vulnerable. When I saw you with Marcus at her funeral, looking for potential investors instead of paying respects, I started investigating." Through the window, we watched the police handcuffing Marcus. His perfect facade had cracked, replaced by a snarl as they led him to the patrol car. "Daniel," Dad started, finally looking at my injured face. "I hate you. I chose to believe a stranger over my own son." "You did," I agreed, touching my lip. "Because you were grieving and he took advantage of that." "But Dad, we need to talk about this pattern." about how you react when people try to help you. A detective walked up our driveway, evidence bags in hand. Soon, we'd need to give statements, file reports, and begin the long process of rebuilding both our finances and our relationship. Dad stared at Mom's picture on the mantel, tears in his eyes. She would be so disappointed in me. No, I corrected him, following his gaze to Mom's smiling face. She'd be proud I caught him. And she'd want us to fix this, all of it, together. The doorbell rang, announcing the detective's arrival. Before answering it, I looked at Dad one more time. Are you ready to face this? He nodded slowly, straightening his shoulders. Yes, and Daniel, I'm sorry, for everything. It wasn't enough, not yet. But as we stood to answer the door, I knew it was a start. The next week was a blur of police statements, financial paperwork, and devastating revelations. The detective's investigation uncovered that Marcus Reynolds' operation was larger than we initially thought. He had stolen from over 20 families in 5 states, always targeting recent widowers or grieving families. He watched obituaries, Detective Sarah Torres explained, spreading photographs across our dining room table, attended funerals, grief support groups. He studied his victims, learned their vulnerabilities. Each photo showed Marcus with different families, always wearing the same sympathetic expression he'd used with Dad. The total amount stolen was staggering, over $12 million. Most of the money is probably offshore, I said, reviewing the financial trails I'd helped trace. My forensic accounting skills had made me valuable to the investigation team. Dad sat quietly, staring at the photos. He'd aged years in just days, the weight of his mistakes visible in the new lines on his face. We found us in his hotel room, Detective Torres said, sliding a notebook across the table. He kept detailed notes on all his targets. My hands shook as I opened it. There, in neat handwriting, was a profile on our family. James Parker, wife deceased, cancer. One son, Daniel, potential problem, works in finance. Life insurance payout, $500,000. Retirement accounts, $350,000, extremely susceptible to flattery regarding business acumen. He was studying us even before Mom's funeral, I said quietly. Dad grabbed the notebook, reading with growing horror. He noted when I talked about your mother, said to use her memory to manipulate me. Detective Torres nodded grimly. He was a master manipulator. Used people's grief against them. A knock at the door interrupted us. Kate, my girlfriend, and a criminal prosecutor entered carrying a stack of files. We found something interesting, she said, placing the files on the table. Marcus had a partner, someone who helped him identify targets. She opened the first file, revealing photos of a grief counselor. Meet Dr. Sarah Mitchell. She ran support groups at 3 different hospitals. Guess who attended those groups? All the victims, Detective Torres breathed, quickly connecting the dots. She got a percentage of every scam, Kate continued. She's being arrested as we speak. Dad's hands clenched into fists. The grief counselor I saw after your mother died, she introduced me to Marcus. The betrayal ran deeper than we'd imagined. They hadn't just stolen money, they'd exploited people at their most vulnerable moments. There's more, Kate said softly, looking at me. The notes show they were planning to target the insurance payout from your mother's medical malpractice suit. I felt the blood drain from my face. We'd been building a case against the hospital for months, documenting their negligence in Mom's treatment. The potential settlement was in the millions. They were going to wait until we won the lawsuit, I realized. This was just the first phase. Dad stood up abruptly, walking to the window. I almost let them take everything. Your mother's legacy, your inheritance, all of it. But you didn't, I said firmly. We caught them. After I hit you, he turned back, his eyes wet. After I chose him over you, over everything your mother and I built. Kate and Detective Torres quietly excused themselves, leaving us alone with the weight of everything we'd learned. You know what Mom would say right now? I asked, joining him at the window. That she told me so. Dad attempted a weak smile. No, she'd say that the money doesn't matter. That what matters is what we do next. I pulled out my phone, showing him an email I'd received that morning. The fraud recovery team has frozen all of Marcus's known accounts. They think they can recover about 60% of what he stole. That's something, Dad nodded slowly. And the malpractice suit? I continued. I want us to handle it together. No more secret investments, no more refusing help. We do this as a family." Dad was quiet for a long moment, looking at Mom's garden outside the window. She'd spent years making it perfect, each flower planted with care and purpose. "I've been so lost without her," he finally said, "trying to prove I could succeed on my own, make big decisions, be the man she always believed I was. Instead, I nearly destroyed everything she worked for." "Then let's fix it," I said. "Together." He turned to me, really looking at me for the first time since that day in the living room. The split in my lip was healing, but the lesson it taught us both would last forever. "Your mother would be proud of you," he said softly. "You protected our family when I couldn't." "She'd be proud of both of us," I corrected him, "because we're going to make this right." Outside, Mom's garden bloomed in the summer sun, a reminder that even after the darkest winters, new growth is possible. We had a long way to go, trust to rebuild, wounds to heal, and justice to pursue. But for the first time since we lost Mom, Dad and I were truly on the same side. And somewhere, I knew Mom was smiling. 3 months later, I sat in a courthouse gallery, watching Marcus Reynolds and Dr. Sarah Mitchell face justice. The prosecution had built an airtight case, combining financial records, victim testimonies, and their detailed notebooks of planned scams. Kate stood before the judge, delivering her closing argument with fierce determination. These defendants didn't just commit financial fraud. They deliberately targeted grieving families, exploiting their darkest moments for profit. They turned grief counseling, a sacred trust, into a hunting ground. I gripped Dad's hand as we listened to the verdict. 20 years for Marcus, 15 for Dr. Mitchell. No possibility of parole. As they were led away, Marcus caught my eye. The smooth confidence was gone, replaced by cold hatred. I held his gaze steadily, thinking of all the families he'd hurt, all the lives he'd nearly ruined. Outside the courthouse, reporters gathered around the victims' families. Dad stepped forward, his voice strong as he addressed the cameras. "Today isn't just about punishment," he said. "It's about healing. To anyone who's been targeted by these predators, don't let shame silence you. Come forward. Help us help you." His words would make headlines the next day, encouraging more victims to come forward and leading to the discovery of 3 more accomplices in different states. Back home, we sat in Mom's garden, where the fall flowers were beginning to bloom. The recovery team had managed to return almost 70% of the stolen funds, exceeding their initial estimates. "The malpractice suit goes to court next month," I reminded Dad, sipping the coffee he'd made. We'd both been working with the lawyers, building an even stronger case than before. "I know," he nodded. "But this time, I'm not focused on the money. It's about accountability, about making sure other families don't go through what we did." He changed in the past months. The angry, defensive man who'd struck me was gone, replaced by someone more thoughtful, more willing to listen. We've been seeing a real grief counselor together, learning to navigate our loss honestly. "Look what I found yesterday," Dad said, pulling out an old photo album. Inside were pictures of Mom at my college graduation, both of us laughing as I tried to fix her camera. "She always had that camera ready," I smiled, touching the photo gently. "Daniel," Dad's voice grew serious. "I've been thinking about the settlement money when we win the case." "Dad, we don't have to." "Let me finish," he interrupted softly. "I want to start a foundation in your mother's name to help families affected by medical malpractice and financial fraud. Provide legal support, counseling, real counseling, whatever they need." I stared at him, seeing Mom's compassion shining through his eyes. "We could call it the Sarah Parker Foundation," he continued. "Help turn our tragedy into something meaningful." "Mom would love that," I said, my throat tight with emotion. "There's more," he added. "I want you to run it. You have the financial expertise, the legal connections through Kate, and most importantly, you have your mother's heart." Before I could respond, Kate's car pulled into the driveway. She hurried toward us, waving a document. "The judge just signed the order," she announced triumphantly. "All of Marcus's remaining assets will be liquidated and distributed to the victims, including his houses, cars, everything." Dad stood up, pulling her into a hug. "Thank you. For everything." "That's not all," she grinned. "Remember those offshore accounts you traced, Daniel? Interpol found them. Another $20 million, hidden in various tax havens." The news should have been exciting, but all I felt was peace. The money wasn't what mattered anymore. What mattered was sitting right here, in Mom's garden, with the people I loved. So, Kate said, settling beside me, "Tell me about this foundation idea your dad mentioned." I looked at Dad, surprised. "You told her?" He shrugged, smiling. "We've been planning it for weeks. Kate's already drafted the incorporation papers." As the sun set over Mom's flowers, we sat together, planning how to turn our pain into purpose. The foundation would be our way of fighting back against predators like Marcus, of helping other families protect themselves. "Your mother always said that helping others was the best way to heal ourselves," Dad mused, looking at her picture in the album. I touched my lip, where the small scar remained, a reminder of how far we'd come. She was right. She usually was. To Sarah Parker, Kate raised her coffee cup, and to the legacy she inspired. To Mom, Dad, and I echoed. As darkness fell, Mom's garden glowed with the solar lights she'd installed years ago, tiny beacons of hope in the gathering night. We faced our darkness and emerged stronger, not just as survivors but as advocates for change. The foundation would be our light in others' darkness, our way of ensuring that Mom's compassion lived on. And somewhere, I knew she was proud of how we turned our tragedy into triumph, our pain into purpose, our loss into legacy.